like I live in the sky. Oh my, it feels like I can fly. Great big world for Nigerian girl. You know what they say, you can take the girl away, but you'll never take away from her roots. Inside her blood and the unending glow. Kinky curls and the way she flows. There's a pride to live, you can lie to leave, yeah. Everybody go tinkle, 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 tinkle. Memories of green tinkle, tinkle as the sun shines in the moonlight. Ayo, ayo, ayo. A Nigerian boy living in a big world, 'cause it's all as it is. Ayo, ayo, ayo. A Nigerian boy living in a big world, 'cause it's all as it is. Ayo, ayo, ayo. A Nigerian boy living in a big world, 'cause it's all as it is. Ayo, ayo, ayo. A Nigerian boy living in a big world, 'cause it's all as it is. Ayo, ayo, ayo. A Nigerian boy living in a big world, 'cause it's all as it is. Ayo, ayo, ayo. A Nigerian boy living in a big world, 'cause it's all as it is. Ayo, ayo, ayo. A Nigerian boy living in a big world, 'cause it's all as it is. Ayo, ayo, ayo. A Nigerian boy living in a big world, 'cause it's all as it is. Ayo, ayo, ayo. A Nigerian boy living in a big world, 'cause it's all as it is. Ayo, ayo, ayo. A Nigerian boy living in a big world, 'cause it's all as it is. Ayo, ayo, ayo. A Nigerian boy living in a big world, 'cause it's all as it is. Ayo, ayo, ayo. A Nigerian boy living in a big world, 'cause it's all as it is. Ayo, ayo, ayo. A Nigerian boy living in a big world, 'cause it's all as This is how I like to live. I am still Arlene, Yoruba accent. They bring the light, they take the light. They go abroad for education. They come back home and start to flex. Oh, for the men's and the women's.
Look back, an easy trap, I know it. Get me back on track, the light is showing. The cause applause, but only lasts a moment. The ties are lost, but always growing. The cold beneath the frost, the green is showing. We pour and set, but do respect the molding. Chorus left, the bridges burn, I'm holding. The ashes, phoenix flying past the old me. Make your own, my home never routed. Stay by my lone, I roam, cause those doubt it. Prefer to sit back, the room and too crowded. The buzz too loud and the sound is unfounded. Shoot high, you roll past the load. It's not far to go to get past the goal. Ayo, we just hit the road, we're going for the gold. And just so you know, the eagles landed, seeds been planted. Live the dream, I leave this phantom. Believe in self, receive the blessing.
mama we useka neza shenje we kanyana maso y'inyana ureba neza mama we useka neza shenje we iwabo ni igicumbi kanyana dada we yeba kanyana kunda kusenga kanda kunimana nishiti ya bose we arangwa n'urukundo akunda kubyina mama we kanyana dada wangu acha waseme watachoka ibyinire mwana wa mama Mungu wetarakuzi kanda kwitayeho kanyana kanyana masa yinyana ureba neza mama we useka neza shenje we kanyana masa yinyana ureba neza mama we useka neza shenje we kanyana k'igicumbi yeba kanyana 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 dada we mama we kanyana 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 mama we dada we cheza paka chini cheza cheza we paka chini cheza kanyana dada we mina kupenda sana acha tucheze pamoja till the sunrise kanyana masa yinyana ureba neza mama we useka neza shenje we kanyana masa yinyana ureba neza mama we useka neza shenje we iwabo ni igicumbi kanyana dada we heba kanyana kunda kusenga kanda kunimana we arangwa n'urukundo kanda byina neza imbyino z'iwacu byina we byina dada wangu byina we hey hi byina we oh byina rafiki yangu oh mama byina we byina dada wangu dada byina cheza cheza paka chini oh mama cheza side to side as you dance.
Cause I need wonder love, real love. That's what I want. And you got what I want. I've been wondering, searching all my life, looking for the wonder love I know I'm gonna find. I've seen every trick, yeah, had me feel alive. Met a nasty viper, oh, and it ain't no friend of mine. But you should know that I ain't on the shelf. And right beside me, I got a space to place yourself. Cause you should know that I've been to school. And there ain't a man alive who'll make me break my golden rule. Cause I need wonder love, real love. That's what I want. And you got what I want. I need wonder love, real love. That's what I want. And yourself, cause you should know that I've been watching you. And there ain't a better man to come and change this one too. Cause I need wonder love, real love. That's what I want. And you got what I want. I need wonder love, real love. That's what I want. And you got what I want. Break my golden rule, cause I need wonder love, real love. That's what I want. And you got what I want. That's what I want. And you got what I want. That's what I want. And you got what I want. That's what I want.
All right, we're going to start in about 1 minute, so I'm just going to encourage everybody to find a seat. So we'll be starting in 1 minute. Want it a little louder. Right, sounds like everybody is ready to start. Good evening. So I just want to welcome everybody to the 2020 Black History Month celebration at Vancouver City Hall. It's great to be here celebrating this occasion in the City Council chambers with all of you tonight. So let me start by introducing myself. My name is Melissa Crump, and it is my pleasure to be your MC for tonight. So when I was asked to be MC tonight, I was first surprised, of course, and once I got over the shock, I was quite honored, as this is a wonderful way to celebrate Black History Month, to start it off, and to celebrate the many achievements and contributions Black Canadians have made. Throughout history, Black Canadians have done so much to make Vancouver the culturally diverse, compassionate, and thriving city that it is today. Today, we have an opportunity to pause and honor all that we as a community have done and continue to do to make Vancouver the place it is today. So as we get started tonight, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the unceded homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. And what a privilege it is and an honor to be able to live, work, and play on this great land. Squamish Councillor Oreen Askew is here tonight, and I'd like to invite her forward to deliver a First Nations welcome. Councillor.
Okay, cool. Hot Squad Sanoya, Skohamish, Oslahan, Ochomeoch, Oreen Askew, Queen Sna, Chinua, DJ Osho. How is everyone doing this evening? My name is Oreen Askew, and I wear a couple hats in the community. I'm one of the spokespersons for Squamish Nation Council, and I'm a DJ. My DJ name is DJ Osho, so you might have seen me around in the community DJing. And when When I was asked to do this welcoming, the spirits inside of me just jumped for joy because I'm mixed heritage. I'm half Squamish and half African American. And a lot of the times my indigenous side only gets acknowledged. So when this came up, I said, of course, I'll be the first one there. But I want to welcome everyone to the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. And I've never been to an event like this before. There's so many smiling, beautiful Black faces. And I'm so proud of my Black side. And a lot of people have been asking me where I got this sweater, which says Black Magic on it. I ordered it from a clothing line in Los Angeles. It's called Stuzo Clothing. They do queer and two-spirited clothing. So it's a clothing line, so just a plug for them. But I was actually just conversating with my girlfriend, and we were talking about how we've never seen so much excitement for Black History Month in Vancouver. And it's just making people more aware that we do have a Black community and we do have history here in Vancouver. So I just wanted to welcome everyone this evening, and it's going to be fun. So thank you. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Councillor, for that wonderful, heart-warming welcome. I think it's pretty awesome that you are of two heritages, and we get to experience both today. So next we have, one of the things I love about this event is there's so much energy, and I think you already alluded to that, Councillor. And tonight I want to put some of that energy into welcoming Naomi Grace. She is going to be singing for us, Lift Every Voice and Sing, and so I'd like to welcome her forward.
Naomi comes up, I just want to share a little bit about her. Naomi is a talented, I actually got to meet Naomi not that long ago at an event, and so it's great to actually get to hear her sing today. And she's a talented, multidisciplinary artist who can be seen performing solo or leading her jazz, retro pop, classic soul band, The New Gramophones. Her upcoming exhibition roots in an Afrocentric art experience taking place February 7th on Commercial Street, so you wouldn't want to miss that. So we're lucky to have you here tonight.
Thanks so much for having me. I just want to say really quickly that I was born here. I was born at BGH, and I've never been in a room with so many beautiful Black people. I was really I have to go back to yours a little bit.
And Thank you so much, Naomi, for that wonderful performance. It's also good to meet someone else who's been born in Vancouver. So. St. Paul's Hospital, though. All right. So, unfortunately, Mayor Stewart was supposed to be here, but he sent his regrets. He had a family emergency. But we do have Deputy Mayor Christine Boyle. It is my pleasure to call up the Deputy Mayor to read the Black History Month proclamation, in addition to proclaiming February Black History Month. The Deputy Mayor will present the proclamation to the Planning Committee in recognition of their work over the past decade in organizing this event. Please join me in welcoming Deputy Mayor Boyle.
Thank you. I'm also tall. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Naomi. That was beautiful. It's great to be here with you all. I also want to acknowledge that we're on the traditional and unceded territories of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh Nations. Thank you, Squamish Councillor Irene. Thank you for being here in your whole beautiful self. I want to acknowledge, I actually have a long list. Was that too much? I have a long list of people to acknowledge for being here, and I want to start with Metro Vancouver Aboriginal Executive Council Representative Sherry Small. Thank you for being here. The Federal Black Employee Caucus BC chapter is here. As well as a number of elected officials, my dear colleagues, Rebecca Bly, Adrian Carr, Melissa DiGenova. Sorry, I'll slow down and let people wave. Councillor Lisa Dominato, Councillor Pete Fry, Councillor Sarah Kirby-Young, and Councillor Jean Swanson. We are joined by our Park Board colleagues, Commissioner Gwen Giesbrecht, Commissioner John Irwin, and Commissioner Dave Demers, as well as school trustees, Trustee Jennifer Reddy, Trustee Janet Fraser, Trustee Ezralita Gonzalez, Trustee Alan Wong, and our provincial colleague, MLA Michael Lee, as well as Morgan Cassell, the representative from the Consular General of the United States, and our panelists who will get introduced a little bit later, Mibret, Warren, Anika, and Felice Marie, our performers, Naomi and Phyllis, and our city manager and many of our amazing city staff here in Vancouver. This is the 10th year in a row that Vancouver City Council has recognized Black History Month at City Hall. And I want to thank members of the Black History Month Event Planning Committee, who I'll invite up in a few moments. They put an incredible amount of thought and creativity into this event, and as you have witnessed and will witness, and we're really lucky for their willingness to do that. And I want to thank the Hogan's Alley Society for their contributions to the Northeast Falls Creek area plan. It is a real honor to be part of this event, and I just want to name, before we get to the proclamation, a few quick things. We know that anti-Black racism exists and persists in this city, that there are regularly reported incidents of violence against Black and Indigenous residents here. And so there's ongoing work that all of us as a city, and also specifically us as the city, have to do. Policy work and redress work and decolonization work and much more. So we have, and we'll continue to have beautiful celebrations this evening, as is appropriate to kick off Black History Month. And also, in practicing some public accountability, I want to let you know about some of the work that we as the city have ahead here. We are
planning for Hogan's Alley. It's been progressing, though I know it's been slow. Nora Hendricks Place has become a thriving community thanks to many folks here and has hosted block parties led by the Hogan's Alley Society and supported by Viva Vancouver, our cultural services team, and the Northeast False Creek Plan. And the city is committed to continuing to work with the Hogan's Alley Society and the Black community to address long-term plans and immediate needs, including exploring land trusts, long-term leases, and the establishment of a cultural center. Internally, our staff continue their work on an equity framework for the city, which will deeply inform the way that the citywide plan and other policy and engagement efforts happen. And in this year's 2020 budget, there are dedicated resources for developing a City of Vancouver specific anti-Black racism strategy. It's ongoing work, but it's incredibly important. This past week, Vancouver recognized a day of remembrance and action on Islamophobia on the 3-year anniversary of the Quebec mosque shooting. We commemorated Holocaust Remembrance Day, we celebrated Lunar New Year, and now here we are to proclaim Black History Month. This is a city, Vancouver, rich with diversity, and still there is violence and racism. And so we show up to stand against all racism and hate in all of its forms. And also, in a city where Black communities have been displaced and erased, it matters that we specifically name anti-Black racism, and that we commit our attention to it while we continue to understand how it is impacted by classism and sexism and ableism and more. Fortunately, as a city, we do this critical work led and informed by a strong, diverse, multi-generational Black community, the presence of which makes our lives and our city better. So thank you for that. I'd like to invite up the Black History Month Event Planning Committee, and I will, as you come on up, recognize your names. Members of this committee, as I said, I'll recognize members of this committee, past and present. I know there are many in the room who have been part of this work over the years, who are members of the local Black community and who have worked tirelessly to advise and help plan this annual event at City Hall with passion and dedication, and also probably many meetings and emails. And we are so grateful. So I would like to invite you up, Karen, Amarai, Mibrat, Benet, Crystal, Adams, Dauphin, Parker, Johnson, Dr. Handel Wright, Michelle Alexander, Ye Bome, Gilpin, Jackson, Melissa Crump, Selwyn Jacob, and Claudine Rodney. And I'll also acknowledge we have a couple staff in the room who worked hard at supporting this team as well. Thank you for their work. Okay, can you hold it while I read it? Except
I'm sure.
my eyes aren't great, so let me just lean right into this. Whereas the City of Vancouver celebrates Black History Month by recognizing that people of African descent have been a part of Canada since the early 1600s, prior to the abolishment of slavery in 1834, and have been part of British Columbia's history since 1858. And this resilient community continues to contribute to the vibrant cultural, economic, political, and social development of the province, even in the face of the continued injustices of anti-Black racism and colonization. And whereas the UN General Assembly proclaimed 2015 to 2024 as the International Decade for People of African Descent, and the African Union and the European Union identified 2010 to 2020 as the Decade of African Women, Vancouver is striving to affirm the rights and strengthen the full and equitable participation of people of African descent. And whereas we are located on the unceded ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people, and the city recognizes the historical relationship between Indigenous and Black communities, and is dedicated to strengthening relations between Indigenous, Black, and people of mixed heritage by listening and learning from their histories, stories, struggles, and triumphs. And whereas the City of Vancouver approved the Northeast False Creek Area Plan on February 13th, 2018, wherein a commitment was made to work with the Hogan's Alley Society to establish the long-term involvement and investment of the Black community in the future life of the Hogan's Alley block in efforts to address the intergenerational socioeconomic impacts of displacement. And whereas the City of Vancouver acknowledges that the work of the Hogan's Alley Society, bringing the Black community's perspectives into Northeast False Creek planning processes and supporting initiatives such as the Nora Hendricks Temporary Modular Housing. And whereas the City of Vancouver acknowledges that more work needs to be done, we are committed to resourcing and following through on Council's decision to develop an anti-Black racism strategy. And whereas we gather in the Council chambers today to recognize Vancouver's Black community, the contributions of our Black staff, and the ongoing work of our Black History Month Event Planning Committee in bringing us together for this celebration over the past 10 years. And now, therefore, I, Christine Boyle, on behalf of Kennedy Stewart, Mayor of the City of Vancouver, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2020 as Black History Month.
All right, thank you very much to all the members of the committee, past, present, who have done this amazing work to not only bring Black History Month celebration here today, but also the continued work that they do in the community. And to all of you who I know have been working tirelessly to bring the voices of Black people forward in Vancouver. So thank you. So now we have an opportunity for a panel. And so I want to invite our panelists forward. And tonight we'll be hearing from them around the theme of home, homelessness, and belonging. Not only will you hear how these thoughtful speakers have found a sense of home and belonging in Vancouver, but also their hopes for the future. And you'll also have an opportunity to participate. So how we're going to do it is the panel is going to provide some remarks, and then there's going to be an opportunity for you to speak to your neighbor and talk a bit more about the topic as well as bring questions forward to the panel. So I would like to bring forward Warren Williams, president of QP15. Mabrat Bayane, executive director of WISH, drop in. Anika Gibson, founder of Meanwhile Black in Vancouver. Felix Marie Boudreau, project manager of Norks Hendrick Place, PHS Community Services. We're going to start with Warren Williams, and I'm going to just share a little. Sorry, I didn't write the script. Warren is president of QP15. He's born in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and started his working life as a waiter for the Canadian National Railway. Warren's family came from Waco, Texas, and Tabor, Oklahoma, and immigrated to Canada in 1908. His family was Afro-American with some Apache and Cherokee ancestries. After working for the railway, Warren started working with youth as an Aboriginal enhancement worker at Britannia Secondary School, where he became in labor involvement. Warren's journey is credited to his grandfather and uncles who inspired him to take similar paths as a trade unionist. Warren, we'd love to hear your thoughts on home, homelessness, and belonging here. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Use it. Try again.
Okay, try again. How's that? Oh, there we go. Good evening, everybody. As said, my name is Warren Williams, and I'm honored to be here today. And we are situated on the unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. And I want hands up to those peoples for allowing us to be here and welcoming us to their lands. The first time I came to Vancouver, I was 14 years old. I came out here with the Pilgrim Baptist Youth Group from Winnipeg, Manitoba. There's about 30 of us, maybe a little bit more. We came out here with our uncles, our aunties, our mothers, and our fathers. And we came out here by Canadian National Railway. And we did all over Vancouver, Chinatown, City Hall. Came to City Hall. First time I was in City Hall, I was 14 years old. Hogan's Alley, Vi's Chicken Shack, right? Vi's Chicken Shack, that was the first black-owned restaurant that I had ever seen at that time in my life. And I come from a large black community in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Some of my cousins are here today. They can attest to that. I see familiar faces here today. I see new faces here today. But in Winnipeg, there's a large black community. Most of them I was related to, right? So it was hard to get dates. But I had never really experienced anything black outside of my family. And there's a lot of safety in family, right? So when I came to Vancouver and we did Vi's Chicken Shack, that was, I'm coming back to Vancouver. I'm going to live here. We did Chinatown. I'm coming back to Vancouver. I'm going to live here. We did first, second, third beach. I'm coming back to Vancouver. I'm going to live here. This is what I'm telling my mother. She's, yeah, okay, dear, okay, dear. I came back to Vancouver. When you have family that works for the railway as porters, it gives you an opportunity to travel young, when you're very young. So at a very young age, I traveled coast to coast. And my second experience with black outside of my family was in Nova Scotia. And if you want to know black in Canada, go to Nova Scotia. That's where black in Canada is, in Nova Scotia. And those communities have been there forever, right? They've been there forever, right? And that's it may sound funny, but that was my first culture shock, because I'd never walked into a room where it was wall to wall to wall black. And that's how it was in Nova Scotia. But when I talk about belonging and finding home in Vancouver, what drew me to Vancouver when I was older was music. And I was just reminded of it a couple of weeks ago. I was at the Queen Elizabeth Theatre for the Legends of Motown tour. And they did the Supremes and they did Marvin Gaye. I could have done a better Marvin Gaye. No, I really could have. I really could have. No, I could have. Anyway, and they did the Temptations and the Four Tops and Levi Stubbs and all that. And it reminded me of just how vibrant this city was back in the 60s and the 70s. And it's just early into the 80s, and then a certain mayor shut everything down. We won't mention his name. But it was a part of belonging to this city, because I could go downtown, Vancouver, and I could go to the Cave, or I could go to the Nickelodeon, or the Point After, and I would see my folks on stage, big acts, Bill Withers, right? Marvin Gaye, the Supremes, James Brown, right? Tina Turner. I could see them there, right? That wasn't happening in Winnipeg. There's a large black community in Winnipeg, but that wasn't happening in Winnipeg. So that was the draw for me in Vancouver, and that's where I found a sense of belonging and home, because as people of color some people of color will tell you, when you see your own, you feel like you belong. Yes. Right? And even though I have a large black family, always isolated, always feeling isolated, right? Because even in Vancouver, we're isolated in Vancouver, right? Most often, if I'm around black folks in Vancouver, I'm with family. And there's a lot of us here. There's Williams, there's Alexanders, Lanes, Brooks, some Tynes, some Hamiltons, some Clarks. There's a lot of us here, right? But we don't see each other that often. We get together for picnics and that every now and then, right? But we're spread out. We're not like other communities. Even in Winnipeg, it wasn't a community of blacks in Winnipeg. We had our church. The church here in Vancouver was over in Strathcona, and it all got shut down. Right? Eventually, I worked there with the Vancouver School Board. The program was called Outreach, and I have some trustees and the superintendent of Vancouver School Board here this evening. And the program was called Outreach, and it was for Aboriginal students, right? To give them the supports that they needed. I worked there for about a year and a half, but that was the Black Church in Vancouver, right? So, and there's always that sense of, with blacks and Aboriginal peoples, there's a sense of belonging, and mostly because of slavery. Because and my family is from slavery, on my father's side. It's from slavery, right? And so we migrated west, and we were protected and given shelter and fed by the Aboriginal, the indigenous communities. And that's how I have some of the Cherokee and I have some of Apache. I can trace my ancestry right back to Cochise, right? Which is a big deal. But we always acknowledge that. We have that indigenous heritage, right, in our family. When Melissa asked me about homeless in Vancouver, I was kind of taken aback. I was like, what does that have to do with being black in Vancouver? I got a little bit indignant with her, but she handled it okay. Because I've never experienced it, right? And I don't know, and this is going to sound very elitist, but I don't know any homeless black people in Vancouver, right? But when I had the conversation with Melissa, when I was coming in from Coquitlam, I started looking around on my drive. And I started seeing black homeless people in Vancouver, right? And I was like, oh, okay, you've been a little bit sheltered. So I'm glad that you asked that question. And I'm not quite sure what the solution is. I know it's a problem, but it's not a black problem. It's not a black problem. It's all of our problems. And we need to do something to deal with it. The future for me, I'd love to see music back in Vancouver. Because even our Canadian culture is based on black music in North America. It is. You want to deny it if you want, but everything that you do, pretty much, there's a thread. And I'd like to see that back in Vancouver, because it was a thriving community. We had people coming up from all over the United States, and that's when Vancouver was live and happening. And for a while there, we were called No Party City. I can't remember what they were calling us. No Fun City. Well, that's because you took all the blacks out, right? That's why. We know how to party. Ask my cousin; she'll tell you. Right? But for me, that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see music back in the city, and and I'd like to see more people, black people, in positions of authority, power, whatever you want to call it. Right? I'd like to see that. There's, we don't have enough of that going on either. Right? And I think that part of the reason we don't have black community here, is because we're fine with being out and about. We're fine being out and about. We don't need to, at least this is from me, we don't need to be clustered together. We're confident. We've been amongst Europeans forever. We know how to deal with European folks, right? We do, and we're not shy about it. I'm part European. My mother's Irish-French, right? She's French-Belgian and Irish. And she's passed now, and she's very Irish, right? But it was important to her that I grew up in my black community, right? As a mother. She understood the importance of that because she knew that people would look at me and they'd go, "Who are you? What are you? Oh, you're Carl Williams' grandson." Because I look like my grandfather. But people would always ask that question. And so I was a little bit hesitant to do this because I didn't want to be in a situation where I was explaining what it's like to be black. Because that's the question folks often ask, right? I had experience a number of years ago. I have a background in family therapy, and we put on a convention, conference, whatever you want to call it, in Vancouver at the Vancouver Hotel, Fairmont now. There's about 800 delegates, and it was about cultural accountability in therapy. And so, of course, there's myself and a few other black folks and other people of color. But the Europeans, people of European descent, kept coming up to us and asking us, "What's it like to be? What's it like to be black? What's it like this? And how's that?" And finally, we got tired of it. And so we started talking amongst ourselves, and we said, okay, well, we need to address this. How are we going to address it? And the simple answer was to get up on stage and ask the question, what's it like to be white in Vancouver? Right? And the simple answer to that is blink, blink, because you don't have to think about it. Right? You don't have to think about it. And it really upset a lot of people it did. It upset a lot of people. About 200 of them left, which is very disappointing considering they're counselors and psychologists and therapists and all that. But they left because they thought we were being racist. Right? We weren't being racist. We think about it every day. I walk down the street, my wife can tell you, I think about it every day. Because I know somebody's looking at me. And they're wondering. So I think I have to think about it every day. But they don't have to think about it. Most people don't have to think about it. So I'm going to end it on that. I'm just going to say, ask yourself, what's it like to be? What's it like to be?
Great. Thank you, Warren, and thank you for taking on that opportunity to look out in your community and see what you don't always see. But love the question you posed to the audience, what is it like to be? So Labrat Bannon is the executive director. Can you hear me? No. Is the executive director of Wish Drop-In Center. She's Eritrean, born in Ethiopia. Yeah, we will try that. Okay, I will continue on while people take care of this. She is an Eritrean born in Ethiopia and raised in Montreal. She is a mother, community developer, teacher, and singer. Mabrat supports women and initiatives related to health and safety of women engaged in street-based sex work. She has also worked in social justice, nonprofit management, and community development for close to 20 years. In a volunteer capacity, Mabrat sits on the board of Match International Women Fund, Pivot Legal Society, and serves on the City of Vancouver Black History Month Planning Committee.
Okay. There's so much feedback. How are you all doing tonight? Good, good. Yes, my name is Mabrat. A lot of you know me as Mimi. My son is right there. I'm very happy that he's here. And I also just want to acknowledge all the young folks in the room. Can we just thank them for being here? Yes. Over here. I love this event for that reason, that we have all ages in here, and you all are beautiful, and it is good to see your faces. And like Naomi said, this is always a treat. We don't get to see each other that often. We're all busy, we're tired, and we're spread out. So this is really, having these events are really important. I've always said that I have a love-hate relationship with Black History Month celebrations and Black History Month events, because, to have us be relegated to 1 month is just never enough. But when you're in a city where the conversations aren't deep enough around race, then let's take this opportunity. Let's at least, we'll be here, we'll do this together. But then maybe I'll invite that we start to welcome each other and bless each other with Black History Month and beyond, so that we don't start in March. We don't stop in March, right? So I think this year is now my 19th year in Vancouver, and those of you who know me will know that within 10 minutes of talking to me, I will immediately identify that I'm from Montreal, and I grew up in Montreal, and I'm fiercely proud of being from Montreal. But part of why I do that is I just have never felt quite home here. This place is beautiful, it's physically beautiful, it is extremely friendly, but there's just something there, that feeling of, when you're on your best behavior because you're in someone else's house? You know that feeling? So I know that I'm already an outgoing person. I know that I'm not shy. I know that I can, meet friends and that kind of thing. I was warned before I moved here, there's no Black people in Vancouver, right? And I was like, that's okay, I'll figure it out. Oh, I didn't pay attention. So that wears on you, because you put that mask on and you do your best and you deal with the microaggressions, you deal with the outright racism, you deal with the weird kind of, why did she just ask me that question? Why did that just happen? And you just deal with it, right? Sometimes you deal with it with grace. Sometimes you don't deal with it with grace. Sometimes you go home and you're like, I should have said this, and I could have said this, and I could have said that, right? Right? So in thinking about the theme for tonight, in terms of what belonging would feel like and what belonging would look like, I recognize that how hard we all have to work to feel connected to each other and to our community, and what it means to see people that look like you, and to see yourself represented in others, whether that's in your workplace or positions of power, or just walking around in the community and being able to just, see yourself in others. And then once I became a mom of a mixed race child, that fear that he's not going to have enough representation, that he's not going to be able to see himself. And he's now dealing with kids at school that can't tell that he's Black, and having to negotiate that and having to navigate that. And I promised I wouldn't tell your story, so I'm not going to tell your story. Yeah. But as a mom, I'm recognizing that he's having a completely different experience around race and around belonging and around identity. So that's been an interesting thing. I think the fact that we're all really spread out and we don't get to see each other except for those sort of key events that we have in the community and throughout, and that some of the work, like what Anika has done in terms of connecting us digitally, which you're going to hear about, that's been massive. That's been a way for us to really see each other, at least in one shape or form, and to recognize that, yeah, we actually are here. So the one thing that I really wanted to delve into is the fact that people always talk about Vancouver as, there are no Black people here, right? We've all heard that, right? And if you travel somewhere else, don't they say to you, Vancouver, but why are you in Vancouver? There's no Black people there. I feel like we've internalized that as well. And that, look at us, we're here, right? Yeah. But the impact of doing that is pretty profound, because then it means that the way we prioritize resources, the way we make decisions around policy and city planning and all of that kind of thing is going to be done with the understanding or the belief that there are no Black people here. So why should we, put energy and resources there? So I don't have a huge amount of time, so I want to shift to the work that I do. And the work that I do in the downtown east side. So I'm not from here originally, but even in the almost 20 years that I've been working in Vancouver and now working in the downtown east side, there are so many more Black folks who are living and or using the services of organizations in the downtown east side. So whereas we make up about 1 and something% of the Vancouver population, what we're starting to see in the downtown east side is somewhere like 4% of residents and folks who are accessing services in the downtown east side. It's close to 4%. So at Wish, it's definitely 4%. Sometimes it's been a little bit higher. And I've talked to some of my counterparts at other organizations, and they're seeing about the same thing. The other thing that we're seeing in the downtown east side is so many more Black folks that are working on the front lines and that are working in, managerial positions, programming positions. You're going to hear from Felix Marie in a little bit about some of that. But we're there. There are a lot of Black folks who are experiencing homelessness and precarious housing. For the community that I support, street-based sex workers, this is already a group of women that are extremely marginalized, but Black women who trade sex, trans Black women who trade sex, they are absolutely the most marginalized. And if you're already believing there's no Black women down there, you're not going to focus your policy, your planning, your resources around that. And for those of us that are working in the downtown east side who are struggling to make that happen, we're coming up against, but there aren't that many Black folks, so I'm not sure how to prioritize that. So I really want to highlight that we're here and that there are a number of us that are slipping through the cracks, and that the concepts of home, housing, homelessness, belonging is even more critical. So for those of us in the Black community, it's also important for us to know that our brothers and sisters and others are in the downtown east side and struggling, and that there's a role for us all to play, whether we volunteer or we donate or we look to work in the downtown east side or just learn what the organizations are dealing with and facing. Because housing and that feeling of home is a right. It's a basic human right. And if we continue to say that Black folks are not here, that we're not doing our best to just be here, to really be here, then we're missing entire groups of people. And Naomi, I also want to repeat what you said. We're beautiful. Look at you all. Just beautiful, working hard, struggling, but working hard and coming out to these events and supporting each other and yourselves. So I'll end there. And I'm just grateful for all of you, for every bit that you're doing to make our community strong and to strive and to support each other. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And, really just hearing from you, when you see yourself, then there's an opportunity to act where the need is, right? So thank you so much. All right. So now we have Anika Gibson. Anika founded Meanwhile Black in Vancouver in 2014, an online platform for the Black community to share information and talk about issues that impact their community. Anika moved to British Columbia with her family in 1988 and has lived all over the Lower Mainland, calling many spots her home. She has an 8-year-old son and drives a bus in Vancouver. Yeah. Welcome, Anika.
Well, I just want to say I am truly honored to be here today. And as always, when we gather in a space, I just want to the energy that we share, it's beautiful. So I just want to bask in that for a moment. You guys are beautiful, and it's beautiful to be here with you. So like she said, I came here in 1988 with my family, and grew up in Vancouver, grew up in Coquitlam, I believe. Coquitlam was the place, where I was very accustomed to always being the only Black person in a lot of different spaces. So like in school, the only Black child in the whole school, or my family being the only Black family in the mall, or wherever that we went, we were the only ones. And that was my norm, I think, for many of us. Not being seen or people wanting to see us as what they thought Black people were. That's a big one. Just, I guess in the teen years, living up to the stereotypes or trying to give people what they want as far as what Blackness is. Using references of, I guess, what, TV shows and music videos, but that was my Blackness. I know that growing up, I traveled a little bit more, and I was going to other spaces and seeing a lot more Black faces. And it's something I wanted more of. So I think when we came back to Vancouver, I was alone, and I didn't know, I was feeling homeless in a way. My Blackness was like a homelessness because there was no one to connect to. There was no one else to see. So that's why, out of frustration, one night I created Black in Vancouver on social media. I started with like 27 people that I knew, and I had asked a friend to add her friends, which I think we were at 50-something by the next day. And in sharing over a week or 2 weeks, the numbers were just climbing because people were looking for somewhere to belong. They also wanted to connect to other Black people. So the evidence was there that we all wanted to belong. So we are now at 4,000 of us since 2014. Which has been an incredible thing for me, like a learning journey, really, to have us all in one space. The discussions, the ideas, the birthing of groups, committees, other pages. It's been an amazing thing to see, and it's really taught me a lot about our community. We have a lot of issues. We're like a big dysfunctional family at times. And it's amazing to see the connection online that we always have a problem bringing offline. For us to actually fill spaces and so on has always been a challenge for us. And I don't know why that is. I don't have the answers to that. I don't know if it's easier just to connect with others on the social media because you don't see other faces, or you're just more brave to say things. But it's been an interesting thing to see. Like I said, I'm very honored to be here. I'm super nervous because I've never, like I said, you hide behind the wall in social media. So to actually be in a space is really incredible. But like I said, like we grew up out here. My family would actually when you would walk down the street and you'd see other Black people, my mother would always make a point of going up to them and talking to them and getting to know them, being small talk. And that was what I was raised to do. But it's been interesting that over the years, now that you even have problems to wave to a Black person or to get another smile from somebody else. That's been an interesting thing to see. It's almost as more we're growing, we're becoming a little bit more disconnected. And that's tough because there's more of us here, so we should be stronger, more connected as a community. So I definitely do see the challenges. but that's something I'd like to overcome. I don't know how we're going to overcome it, but I would definitely like to overcome those.
Thank you, Anika. And, you know, I also remembered being taught by my parents at a young age that you greet every Black person that you meet, and how important that has been, how I've taught my nieces and nephew the same thing. But as you said, as we have grown larger, not everybody does that. So how do we create connections? So thank you. Next, we have Felix Marie Badeau. Felix Marie is a fourth-generation Vancouverite of Choctaw, Congolese, and Scottish descent. As an Indigenous, Black, and two-spirited individual, Felix Marie is committed to upholding the rights and sovereignty of First Nations and amplifying Black voices, and passionately supporting her LGBTQ2S+ brothers and sisters to help the community as a whole become more accepting of diversity. Felix Marie is currently the project manager of the Nora Hendricks Place temporary modular housing with PHS Community Services.
I am so grateful to be here with all of my brothers and sisters from all parts of the planet. Hi. Sahachifat Felix Marie Badeau. I am a fourth-generation Vancouverite. I grew up in an all-white family, but I want to give you a bit of an idea of what it was like 50 years ago in Vancouver when I was 4 or 5 years old, driving along Hastings Street, and my white stepfather and my mother driving the car and me in the back seat being the only child at the time. And there were KKK in their full ensemble on a street corner handing out pamphlets. As we were driving towards them, my stepfather yelled some obscenities at them that he probably shouldn't have, because there we are, it's a red light. And mom and dad are like, get down. Just get down. So that was Vancouver in the 60s and early 70s. At the time, I lived on the North Shore, and I didn't know what a Black person was. I knew I was Black because people told me I was. Didn't mean much to me until I got to school and I was called Banana Lips and Aunt Jemima and all of the other things. I was like, I don't even know what that means. There was one other Black person that I had experienced on the North Shore as a small child. My stepfather, in fear of coming to get a child that didn't look like him from preschool, asked this young Black man to collect me. And I said, I don't like brown people. Don't touch me. It took me so long to get that feeling of belonging. The feeling of belonging for me came from when I lived on the Squamish Nation in the Capilano Reserve. And at that time, that was when I started to learn about community. And that was also when I was encouraged to learn about what it was to be Black. After that, I soon moved to Vancouver, and I actually met some Black people. It was incredible. And I was like, I get it. Now I know why I am this extremely introverted extrovert. It's because we've got style. And I'm not saying that people other than Black people don't have style, but we definitely have a different way of doing it. So the first thing I want to say is that in my experience as a 55-year-old two-spirit person in this city is that we have come a long way. It may not seem like it right now. It may not seem like there are a lot of Black people in Vancouver right now, but we have come a long way in this city. I'm also the manager of Nora Hendricks Place, so it behooves me to say that we did once have a thriving Black community in Vancouver. We had the Hogan's Alley area. And of course, the Georgia Viaduct went in and the Dunsmuir Viaduct went in, and that displaced our Black community. So now, what that looks like for me as the manager of Nora Hendricks Place is that I have Black people from all over the world, and only a couple of them who are actually from British Columbia. So I'm just going to read a little, just because I'm actually in the middle of moving and I'm ill-prepared-ish. I'm wearing my ex's glasses, so I'm just kind of all over the place. I did have something that I felt was important to say, so I'm just going to blast through this if I can figure out technology here. Okay, this is what I have to say. In light of British Columbia adopting the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and as a person of both Black and Indigenous descent, I want to draw our attention between the allyship of Black and Indigenous peoples. I am the project manager of Nora Hendricks Place, well, that's been said a few times now. Almost a year old now, our temporary modular project is. We prioritize Black and Indigenous peoples and help them to find permanent housing in Vancouver. So that means that we have 52 units. Initially, when the Hogan's Alley Society approached the city was like, you're not going to find 52 Black people in Vancouver. So I have a waiting list of over 100 people. Approximately a third of my residents at Nora Hendricks Place identify as being both Black and Indigenous. That says quite a bit. Nora Hendricks herself was Black and Indigenous. The First Peoples of North America welcomed and aided African people as they maneuvered their new situation of slavery and oppression. They made us feel welcome, and as we made North America home, as we made this place a place of belonging. We are so incredibly grateful to live with our Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh brothers and sisters here in Vancouver, and the occasional, I know there are other Choctaws out there somewhere, I run into the occasional one, but for me, after 4 generations, my great-great-grandfather was the mayor of this city. This is home. And as I look out at the multitude of Black faces, white faces, and everything in between, you're my brothers and sisters. You are what makes this my home. I am so grateful to you. Yakoke.
Thank you, Felix Marie. And, just really thinking about what you said about, we've come a long ways, but it seems like there's still a ways to go. So thank you for that. So I'm going to give you an opportunity. Somebody's going to tell me I'm not on time, but we're going on my time today. We're going to give you an opportunity to talk to your brothers and sisters, to your neighbors. And so I just want you to have 2 minutes just to turn to each other, to greet each other, and to just share a little bit about what has impacted you when you think about home, homelessness, and belonging here. And so I will just give you an opportunity now to turn to your neighbors, talk to them, and then I will bring you back in 2 minutes. Okay? Can I get everybody back to the front? All right, I'm going to bring everybody back to the front. It sounds like there was some great conversation and that people don't want to stop talking. No, you don't get any more time. This is sometimes what happens when we open up the opportunity for people to talk. We realize we have so much to talk about and there's so much opportunity. But the conversations can continue after. So I'm just going to give the panelists 30 seconds each just to give a closing thought and or question to the audience today. So
yeah, I'd love to start. I would just like to say, as far as the success of Meanwhile Black in Vancouver, we've just grown so large, and we've connected, we've spoken to each other, we've done so much online. I would love to see that come offline and actually see that build a community offline, really, more connected. And how do we do it? Would be the question I'd love to pose to you.
Okay, so I think it's really interesting to hear your perspective of having been in the city for so long, and that actually, yes, we've come a long way. And the other thing that I wanted to bring back, Christine, Deputy Mayor Boyle's comment, even naming anti-Black racism is new in Vancouver, right? So I think just how profound that is for the mayor and the deputy mayor to be talking explicitly about anti-Black racism is so validating, and is at least, okay, that we're at a point, now we can really talk, as opposed to the euphemisms that you're used to hearing in, policy talk and political talk. So I want to acknowledge that's a really important starting point.
I tried to be last because I started first, so now I have to get my thoughts together. I do want to say thank you again for being here, and thank you to the City of Vancouver for putting on this event for 10 years in a row. Hands up. Somehow I always find myself surrounded by women. And I just want to acknowledge that here I am again, sitting up front as the only male. Okay, there you go. Thank you. There you go. There you go. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'm not alone. Okay, that's better. That's better. Where I was going is that I come from a matriarchy, though. And in my family, it's the women in my family. They're the ones that are the doers, right? They're the ones that are the doers. And what I learned from the doers in my family was that, and I'm going to pass it on to you, and I hope you pass it on to your children, be proud of who you are. And remember, when you walk out that door, you carry your family with you. And remember that. Don't embarrass your family.
I think my parting thought is that it's really important for us to remember that we are all related. We have, sometimes it's hard when we're just walking down the street and we're seeing another face coming towards us, regardless of the color of our skin. It is so important to remember that we're brothers and sisters. For those of us who are Black, we are brothers and sisters who have gone through trial and tribulation. For those of us who are Indigenous, we are going through a lot right now. I just want to thank all of you. I want to say peace on your heads, and I'm going to go home and have a beer and finish packing.
Thank you so much, Warren, Mabrat, Anika, and Felix Murray for being here tonight and bringing forward such thoughtful, intriguing, and wonderful point of views. So thank you. So it is my pleasure now to invite Deputy Mayor Boyle and Maurice Earle. Maurice Earle is from Canada Post to unveil this year's commemorative Black History Month stamp.
I just got my eyes done. And I still need these. As I start off every Black History Month stamp launch, I say, hello, family. No. Come on, you gotta do better than last year, right? Hello, family. That's more like it. That's more like it. Now I can see all your beautiful faces. Oh my goodness, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. So, I know we were talking about isolation and such. I grew up in Newfoundland. And look at me now. You wouldn't have guessed that, right? And I'm proud to grow up in Newfoundland, but I'm also proud to be here in Vancouver. And I'm also proud to be representing Canada Post at this time. So let me begin. So thank you very much, Melissa, for inviting me. City of Vancouver. I know this is 10 years you guys been doing it, but Canada Post actually from Vancouver, we've been doing it for 11 years. My wife was the first one. She's sitting up there with my son right now. She was the first one to do this. I'm very proud of that. So thank you for inviting us. It's a very special event tonight. We're proud to be one of Canada's storytellers. We tell this through our stamps. Through our stamp program, we have have the honor of telling stories of people, the events, and the accomplishments that make this country of ours a great nation that it is. It also allows us the opportunity to reflect Canada's diversity and inclusiveness. The stamp we unveiled tonight will shine a spotlight on an incredible but lesser-known part of hockey history, the Colored Hockey Championship. Between 1895 and the early 1930s, all Black hockey teams in the Maritimes thrilled mixed audiences with exciting matches and challenged each other for the championship. They pioneered a physical, fast-paced style and down-to-ice goaltending long before these features of today's game. Not only did they inspire other hockey players with their exciting play, but they also helped to dispel hurtful misconceptions that helped break down barriers. The first record of an all-Black hockey game in the Halifax area dates back to March 1895. It involved two teams, the Dartmouth Jubilees and the Halifax Stanleys. The first, other regional teams soon formed, including one from Prince Edward Island. All Black hockey had become a larger maritime phenomenon. Okay, so you ready for the last bit? Right on. The stamp you will be seeing soon was designed by Laura Minja, okay, of Victoria. Oops. And illustrated by Ron Dolkamp. The illustration is based on the historical photograph of the Halifax Eureka's, the Colored Hockey Championships of 1904. It exemplifies the golden age of the all-black hockey in the Maritimes, the period between 1895 and 1910. Baptist church leader James A.R. Kinney, a driving force behind the Halifax area teams in the late 1890s, is pictured on the stamp that you'll see. He is in the middle of the back row. Kinney instilled in the players self-discipline, professionalism, skill, and teamwork. He was helped by James R. Johnston, also on the stamp to the right of Kinney. These men were convinced that black hockey had the potential to strengthen the black Canadian communities. Yes. And it did for all it lasted. But in the early 20s, all black hockey in the Maritimes began to fade. The First World War robbed teams of players as some joined the number 2, remember, the number 2 construction battalion, the all-black battalion. Right. The Halifax explosion in 1917 further interrupted life for many of the Halifax area, as did the Depression in the early 30s. While challenges for the Canadian Championship faded in the 1930s, all black hockey still holds an important place in our country's history, and Canada Post is proud to honor it. So you want to see the stamp? You want to see the stamp? Let's see the stamp. I'd like to invite Christine.
All right. Thank you, Maurice, for unveiling this beautiful stamp and the liveliness in which you did it. Thank you to Canada Post for continuing to commemorate important people and moments in Black history, and thank you for the history related to that. Before we bring tonight's program to a close, I'd like to invite Phyllis Adelene, probably got that wrong, my apologies, to sing 2 songs. Phyllis is a local jazz, gospel, and soulful singer, songwriter, and recording artist. So some of you may have heard her music, and been blessed by it. Please join me in welcoming Phyllis as she sings Lean on Me and Down by the River. Phyllis.
It's wonderful to be here. It's an honor to be asked if I could come out. I was very excited to be here for Black History Month celebration 2020. I've been here to a couple of them, and as I said, it's an honor. And thank you all for being here. And I know there is a fan of the Withers, because I heard it mentioned earlier. And I'm sure there are many more fans. In 1972, he wrote that song, Lean on Me. And it said that he started out as a stutterer at the age of about 13. But you wouldn't know it by all the wonderful music that he's given to us. And he was also inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I said thank you. have things you need to borrow. No one can share those are your needs that you won't let show. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem, and you understand. We all need somebody to lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you understand. We all need somebody to lean on. If there is a load that you can't bear, that you can't carry, I'm right out the road, and I'll share the load if you just call me. If you need a friend, all you gotta do is call me. If you need a friend, call me, call me, call me, call me, call me, call me. Thank you. Thank you so much. This next one is called The Only Grow Spiritual, or as they say in the South, spiritual, down by the riverside. And I know there are singers out here. I'm looking to hear you too. This is my recording, and the name is Phyllis Adeline. Yes, here we go. I ain't gonna study you all no more. Ain't gonna study you all no more. Ain't gonna study. Oh.
gonna put on my golden shoes. Down, oh, way down, 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 down. Gonna put on my golden shoes. Down, down by the riverside. I ain't gonna study no more, no, no more, no, no more, no more, no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Study war no more. No more war, no. No more war, no. Study war no. No more, no more, no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Study war no more, no more war. Study war no more, no more, no more. Study war no more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Phyllis, for that amazing, amazing music that you brought us. As I looked around, I didn't see one head that wasn't nodding, one hand that wasn't clapping. So thank you very much. A name that we won't forget. So as we wrap up, there is one more announcement that was brought to my attention. Dolana Jones is here. Donalda? Thank you. Who is Viola Desmond's niece. So just wanted to acknowledge you here. Thank you. So this is the end for up here, and everybody's invited downstairs to a reception on the main floor to enjoy some delicious food from Arike Restaurant. Arike is a Nigerian-inspired restaurant that draws upon Nigerian street food flavors and seasoning while using Pacific West Coast ingredients. Arike is located on Davie Street, and so if you like what you experience here, go down and see them. And also, while you're down there, you will be listening to the legendary radio DJ George Barrett playing for us. So as we draw to a close, I would just like to acknowledge all of you here today, and I'd love for us to give a round of applause for everyone who is here today, whether they are on this stream, whether they're in the room, or we're thinking about them as part of Black History Month celebration. So let's give everybody a round of applause. I am looking forward to seeing everybody at more great events throughout February, either online or in person. So thank you.
from?